Hey Emma,
Yes, Madeline.
what do I need to work on doing when I'm bad at a video game?
I don't know, Madeline. What do you have to work on?
Getting over it. Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I was telling Emma the names of the games are too normal this week, so my joke, my ridiculous forcing it into words that they aren't potential, was not really there. It was like, oh, getting over it. That's a phrase people use.
Yeah.
And Fallout, that's a word.
Mm-hmm.
So the joke was weak this week. I apologize. I know it, you know it, we all know it. Decided to go with a personal overshare instead. So, laugh at me, not with me.
Yes.
So welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Madelyn.
I'm your other host, Emma.
And we're excited to have you with us on this fine birthday weekend for Talk This co-host Emma.
Yeah.
20 fun.
20 fun. Yeah, I'm partying it up. Living super large on my couch.
It's the party spot. I've got a great gift for Emma that she doesn't know about yet. We're going to see her next week. We have to talk about when we're going to record. Will it be an in-person Talk This? Probably not, but it could be. So get excited for that next week, people.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, get excited for this week's games, which are the classic Fallout and the not classic, but maybe classic if you're into this kind of freaky, masochistic horror, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
Uh-huh.
So we'll get to that one in a little bit. But first, we'll start out with the game that I feel like everyone, regardless of if they're a gamer or not, has at least heard of: Fallout. Or, if we're going to go for the true title of, are we discussing like the old Fallout? I know we're doing the series, but in the hat, what game is this really?
You know, just the series.
Fair enough.
I mean, both the Fallout, the original one, and then Fallout 3, which is its sort of the beginning of its current incarnation, or more than 10 years old.
The soft reboot, although it's not really a reboot.
It just was taken over by Bethesda as opposed to Black Isle. Was the first one, I believe. Yeah, so we can just talk about both those.
Wonderful. So we'll start out then with Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game, as is the full title of the 1997 release. It was developed and published by Interplay Productions, Black Isle being a studio underneath Interplay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both right. And so Interplay also developed, you might have heard of Baldur's Gate as another one from them. They're since kind of defunct, although they did not go quietly into the night, as we might discuss. Emma, do you want to talk about Fallout's kind of plot? Do you want me to do that?
So Fallout, and all of its incarnations, is about the world after nuclear fallout, basically. It's pretty much in the title. But essentially what happens is in the, before all these bomb drops or in the aftermath, I don't really know, people all go down into these vaults. And then these vaults eventually open up, and people are able to leave the vaults and try to reestablish themselves on the nuclear world. That's the basic premise.
And I asked, this is one of Clickbait Boyfriend's, a game he really likes, Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, I was like, do you think would I like this game? Give me some hot takes for the episode that I can pretend are mine. And he was like, I wish you would like it, but you probably wouldn't. So like Emma said, the original Fallout set in the mid-22nd century in this aftermath of the nuclear war. We've got these vaults, which is I found it amusing today because I was playing Borderlands this morning and I was like, like vaults all over the place. And in the original Fallout, you live in one of these vaults, but the water chip in your vault breaks, and so you have to venture out to find what you need to repair the water chip, or you'll die, and everyone in the vault will die. So in the original Fallout, it's interesting with these games because like we have this original trilogy that I feel like it's just very different in gameplay than in this. It's not a trilogy really. It's like 2 games plus their kind of like tactics game.
Yeah.
Then we have these first 3 games that are very, very different in gameplay style than the Bethesda era, which begins later. So in these first Fallout games, it's basically kind of you have real-time exploration of the world, but then you go into combat and it's this like turn-based combat system, which I was reading that and I was like, great, like I don't know why Josh thinks I would hate this game. Like this sounds like my ideal game.
It is not turn-based anymore.
Yeah, not at all. So then when you get to kind of Fallout 3 and this Bethesda purchased era of the game, it becomes, as it was described to me, like an Elder Scrolls clone. Except that you have guns instead of swords. So it becomes much more of the kind of action RPG modern thing that we're maybe used to.
Yeah. Fallout is one of the, like, what I think of when I think of a Western RPG.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of archetypical of that.
Yeah. At least the current incarnation of Fallout, because the old ones were, like, isometric and stuff. Even those were RPGs, but the current ones are now what I definitely think of when I think of the Western RPG.
And I have to give a shout out to one of the more famous canine companions in all of video games, Dogmeat. A while ago, I was putting together like a dogs and video games blog post. I can't remember if it actually made it to the blog or not.
I don't remember it, so I don't think it did.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I was like trying to do it, and then I was, as it goes, I was working and I like didn't have time to finish it. But Dogmeat kept coming up, and I was like, who the heck is Dogmeat? Because as you may have picked up on, like I identify Fallout. I know it's a PC game, right? But it came out on Xbox eventually, right?
Yeah, it's also on the PlayStation 3. Fallout 3 is.
Okay, so I don't have an excuse, but I identify it in my brain as an Xbox game. I don't know why. It's a stereotype.
Yeah. I also associate, like, just Bethesda games in general with Xbox, which I know that they are not all Xbox. They presented at Microsoft this year at E3, so maybe that's partially why. I don't know.
Yeah. But basically, I identify it in my brain as an Xbox game. I haven't ever actually played it, which it shouldn't be a surprise at this point, right? Whenever I say, I always feel like, oh, it's going to be so shocking when I'm like, I haven't played this game that's so popular that everyone and their mother has played, but it's not, right? Like, every week I'm like, I haven't played this famous game.
Yeah.
So here we are, folks, but I haven't played it.
I have not played Fallout either. As I've said before on this podcast, it's very rare that I'm able to get into an open world kind of game, and the modern incarnations of Fallout are definitely kind of open world.
Yes.
Sturf.
So let's talk about that. So Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 and Fallout, it's got like a massively long name. It's like Tactics, Brotherhood of Spite or something.
Brotherhood of Steel?
Yeah, that makes more sense than Brotherhood of Spite.
Brotherhood of Spite sounds epic. Honestly.
Well, maybe that'll be the title of our mashup this week. Actually, could be fitting. So these first 3 games are developed by Interplay and Black Isle kind of underneath that. But Interplay is having major cash flow issues heading into the early 2000s. They do all this stuff. They go public. They try to sell stocks. It doesn't work. And basically, they start having to kind of sell off all of their IPs. And so they do sell off Fallout to Bethesda Games. in 2007. This is after like multiple bankruptcies at this point, wherein Bethesda kind of takes over this series from there. And I thought it was interesting that they continue the continuity of the series, right? I feel like now, and maybe 2007 kind of predates this a little bit, but now it's like constantly we're rebooting the series, and I refer to this Bethesda takeover as a soft reboot in Fallout 3, but that's really not what happened at all. They completely changed the gameplay of the series, but the continuity of the timeline, they kept pretty consistent.
Yes, I mean, I still think that falls under the category of what you would say is a soft reboot. I don't think that necessarily has to do with the chronology. I think that's where the soft comes from. But it's still a revamp of the whole thing. I guess you could call it a revamp. I don't know. An update. But, I mean, it's still, like, changing the identity of the series, even if it's not breaking from what has happened before in the series. Like, you know, like the new God of War is a soft reboot, but it doesn't break from the chronology of God of War.
I guess that's true. I don't know. I found it interesting that they didn't, and I guess it makes sense, right? You want to buy a series that you think is good and you're building on good foundations and whatever, but I found it interesting that, yeah, like the gameplay changed to be kind of more of a Bethesda-style game, but that they weren't like, let's throw all this out.
Yeah.
You know, they threw out something major about it, and not entirely. There's still some kind of quasi-turn-based-y kind of things built into the fighting. Not turn-based exactly. There's some stuff that's not just like real-time action built into it. But I found it interesting that they were like, we're going to throw out all the combat, but like the lore and stuff, that's fine. We'll keep all that.
I mean, I think it's good when a series gets a chance to have a more modernized take on it, when it has a lot of potential that maybe has not been fully realized or is dated or is anything like that. Just because, like, you know, like there's a lot of potential to be found in the post-nuclear world, right? There's plenty of stories that deal with that, so why bother changing something that's already inherently appealing about a series, or else why are you taking it on in the first place?
And that's fair. I guess I don't generally associate that kind of respect for other people's creations with the video game community. I don't know why. That's like a weird and mean thing to just throw out there, but I don't know. You know where I'm coming from with this at all?
No, I don't tend to think that other people take on other people's work without having some, like a company taking on another company's game, for instance. Not just like another person coming to a series. I don't know what happens with that. That's a matter of personal people. But like a company isn't going to keep make a game from someone else that they don't think has some sort of potential in it, or else why are they just not making their own IP?
And that's fair. I don't know. It just seemed like, you know, this company went bankrupt, like they're failures. I don't know. It's just an interesting situation, and it's one I feel like we don't see quite as often anymore now that we have these kind of giant AAA, really established companies. Like, if you do make a good game, you're probably, like, you're gonna have some money coming in. Like, that, not necessarily, I know. But there's just a more clear delineation now than in, like, 1997, I think, between, like, there are indie game makers who are, you know, mostly kind of crowdfunding, self-funding, attracting investors, but, like, on a personal level, and creating a game. And, yeah, those studios might disappear, right? They might not be able to attract funding again, even if they make a great game. Fine. But on the level of, like, I mean, Fallout sold really, really well, in a kind of a mainstream way, especially for then. And to have a successful series like that and then go bankrupt, I feel like is not something that happens quite as often in 2018.
I'm not experienced enough with how the corporate world of video games is happening right now. So I could not confirm or deny that. But I would say, especially since the original Fallout sold well, it's not surprising that they would want to modernize it but not change everything about it in order to maximize their profits.
Alright, I'll stop digging this hole here. Something that I do think is really cool about the Fallout series, and the reason that CBB was saying he liked Fallout 3 in particular, is that they take place in, like, actual cities.
Yeah.
And cities that are recognizable. I mean, not recognizable, of course it's post-apocalyptic, but the neighborhoods are real, and you can go to, like, you could probably walk to where we live in the DC area.
Yeah.
Or, I guess, I shouldn't say we, right? I live in New York now. But you can walk to our home in the DC area, and they're just now releasing, like, a Miami mod for one of them, which I thought would be kind of cool to be able to walk around Miami. And one of this Fallout 4 is in Boston, so you might enjoy that. I don't know. Maybe it's a little dark to be like, oh, it'd be cool to be able to walk around my post-apocalyptic city.
Yeah.
But I do always enjoy games that allow me to do... It's like a weird little Easter egg.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, of course. Bethesda Studios for Fallout 3 is, based in Bethesda, Maryland.
Yeah.
So that they would make a game that's in the DC area certainly makes sense. Although you have to wonder, it's like, are they being like, oh yeah, like my evil ex lives in Northwest, like, let's put some hard enemies there.
Oh my gosh.
Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that is an interesting trend, I guess, or habit of, like, really recreating these real cities in video games and interacting with the real cities. I don't know if it's more impressive or... In fact, maybe it is less impressive than making, like, a real new environment, as opposed to just trying to recreate a city. I mean, I guess it's impressive if you really manage to capture what that city is like or would be like. But, and I guess Fallout is a little different too because you're imagining what that city would be like in Fallout. But it's weird, It's
interesting. It's certainly, when it is your city, it's certainly an interesting way to draw someone into the game. Especially a kind of open world style game like these sort of second generation of Fallout games, right? Like, you really, I feel even more driven to explore, at least at first, when it's like, oh, I'm gonna go see where my high school might be, or where I saw that show that one time, or that restaurant, like all these neighborhoods, or where I had a job. At first, I can see that that's a great way to, like, sort of suck people into the game, of even if you don't have anything too narratively compelling at the beginning, at least you've got those folks who are like, let me go see where I lived when I was 12 and check that out. In video games, perhaps that's less... Like, I'm particularly interested in when plays do that kind of thing, of kind of dropping area-specific references, because it always kind of, like, gets me. I'm like, haha, like, yes, I have been to that corner store with the rats, or whatever. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's interesting in something that is more localized. In video games, maybe you're right that it doesn't work quite as well, because of course there's only so many people in the DC area or the Boston area who will be interested in exploring it in that capacity. And I think you're right that, certainly technically it's very impressive to have really created a city based on a real city that is actually recognizable, but it's probably not as creatively impressive as creating an original world.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to say that it doesn't work to recreate a city. I just always am interested when I, like, read reviews and they're like, oh man, what an amazing representation of this city, but then you don't really read a lot of reviews that are like, this original city is, feels like a city or whatever. That wasn't English, but you get what I mean. But as I was thinking that, I was wondering if it's just because we don't make original cities in games, Because I couldn't think of one. Like, a one that, like, you can, like, open world in, and it's like a city, like Boston or San Francisco,
That's true, we don't really very often, do we?
Yeah, like, we have open worlds and there are villages and whatever, but they always tend to be, like, fantasy settings, so they're more, like, medieval, so I couldn't actually think of one that was, like, an original, like, city. I guess Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out, and that'll be a city. But other than that, I couldn't think of anything.
Well, listeners, we'll throw it to you. If you can think of any original cities that are constructed on the same level as these Fallout ones, or the ones in Assassin's Creed, or that kind of thing, drop us a line, because I'm sure we're forgetting something incredibly significant. But
Probably.
I can't think of it right now. I do also want to talk quickly before we switch into talking about our second game. Well, about two things. One of which is going to be my good transition, but the other of which is the most recently announced Fallout game, Fallout 76, which was controversial to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've announced that it's going to be a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, which it seems like, from my gauge of internet reaction, everyone was a little bit disappointed about.
Yes, although they have said now that you can do it entirely solo. So it's not as if you have to be multiplayer in order to get through the story, which I think is what people were worried about.
Yeah, but you know that the multiplayer section is going to be the part that really gets the kind of attention and care and new cool stuff.
Well, you would hope not, but I mean, it's an interesting direction to take because the series has never taken that direction. So I'm just thinking that maybe, like, instead of having any sort of NPCs, which, you just have other people.
Yeah, and that's what they're saying. There won't be any NPCs at all in this game. That they're all real people. Which is an interesting concept, if not one that I think, off the top of my head, seems destined for super success.
Mm-hmm.
Given the general temperament of online gaming.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, actually, you would, for a game like this, I would think that you would actually want it to not be wildly successful. That you would want maybe like a surge at the beginning, but then to settle into like a dedicated community that actually enjoys it. Because otherwise, like, it ends up a mess, right? When it's like narrative multiplayer,
Yeah, and did you know, though, that this is not the first time that they've tried to make an online multiplayer Fallout?
What? No.
So, in this kind of purchasing deal between Interplay and Bethesda, which became very controversial in court over time, they did leave, like, the rights with Interplay to create and develop this, like, an online version of Fallout Online, as it would be called.
Mm-hmm.
And then, basically, Bethesda sued because it seemed like Interplay hadn't raised enough money, and they hadn't started the development by a certain date, and also Interplay was still trying to sell the original Fallout trilogy, and Bethesda was like, we didn't agree to this, even though they sort of did, and it became this whole, like, giant court thing that eventually Bethesda had to purchase the rights to this Fallout Online in, like, 2012. I just think these kinds of court disputes and, like, behind-the-scenes wrangling can be kind of interesting. And I found it funny that we're now coming back to this Fallout Online thing that was so unsuccessful for them in its first kind of attempt. And now, once again, people are up in arms and not super excited to begin with. I'm sure it'll be a good game. Well, I'm not sure about that, but maybe it'll be a good game. But certainly... just because it's not going to be bad just because it's an online game or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, my other thing I wanted to mention, which will be my transition because I've seen one of these for both of these games in the past day. Did you know that somebody just recently beat all 5 of the main Fallout games in 90 minutes?
Wow.
And this was a speedrun using, like, he could use any cheats or any glitches he wanted. But still, freaking nuts. 5 games, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I think speedrunners are so crazy.
I think speedrunners are crazy too, yeah.
Like, I admire the ability. It's like, I would never be like to someone, oh, you're really good at sports. Like, why did you spend all that time being good at sports? but it's hard to shake something in me when somebody is really good at speedrunning of like, why did you waste your time on this? Even though I know I shouldn't feel that way, part of me is like, still like, nerd.
I'm always like, I always think like, I mean, I guess it's kind of like a sport, but I always feel like when you play a sport, you end up in a infinite variety of situations, which isn't exactly true, you know, depending on the sport and your position and, you know, how you define infinitely different, you know, from each other.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, with games, like, there's only a certain amount you can do, right?
Yeah.
So I always feel like just focusing on speedrunning one game. But then again, I play a game for storytelling, not just for, like, the technical stuff that goes into it. So that might also be my bias showing. But I'm always like, how do you not get bored?
Yeah.
Of doing it and want to play something else?
Anyway, speaking of wanting to play something else, getting over it with Bennett Foddy. So to start this one off, I did just watch a speed run of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, in which someone beat the entire game in less than 2 minutes.
That's crazy.
It was beautiful, but also watching it showed me why I should never, ever, 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 ever play this game.
Yeah.
This game would kill me.
Yeah.
This game would drive me insane. I would probably never be able to stop playing. No, that's not true, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But this would give me a heart attack. My blood pressure would go through the roof.
Well, it's aimed towards a certain type of person to hurt them.
Yes, that is the exact quote on the page. I created this game for a certain kind of person to hurt them. And Bennett, what is wrong with you? Anyway, for those of you who have not already heard of this game, it's created, as you might guess, although I didn't when I just heard the title, by Bennett Foddy. When I heard this title, I thought it was going to be like, you know when in like the Disney Channel movies, it's not just Disney Channel movies, but like high school movies where it's like, you might be wondering how I got myself into this situation.
Yes, the meme.
The meme, exactly. I thought it was going to be like that kind of a game. I don't know why. The name Bennett Foddy just sounds like he's like a dorky 15-year-old and like he's got to survive high school. You know?
Uh-huh.
That's what I thought it was going to be about. And it's not about that. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Instead, it's created by Bennett Foddy, which you probably guessed, listeners, but I did not. And it's about a hiker whose name is Diogenes. More on that in a minute.
Not that you ever find that out in the game, I'm pretty sure. But
well, his name is Diogenes. And it's a very simple game. You just use your mouse, and you're trying to hike using your, like, classic kind of pickaxe kind of deal to the top of a mountain.
Yes, but you're also in a cauldron.
Right, sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, you are in a cauldron trying to kind of hurl yourself via pickaxe up a mountain through pickaxing and flights and jumping around, but all you do that just with your pickaxe.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be thinking, Madelyn, Emma, this sounds like an easy game. You would be mistaken. This is a game that it's like deliberately unforgiving.
Yes.
No checkpoints, no save points, no nothing. So if you fall back down the mountain because you made a mistake, that's it. You're back down the mountain.
Yeah.
You've lost it all. Which, this has been something that has been actually frustrating me a lot in my not this video gaming lately. In Breath of the Wild, and to a lesser extent in Skyrim. So these are like big open world games, right? Which is the opposite of what this game is, but hear me out. And you'd think in these big open world games, you'd want your game to be saving frequently.
Yes.
Automatically. But these games only save when you enter into a quote unquote new area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Breath of the Wild, what the heck does that mean?
Probably when it flashes the new area title.
Right, but it's not just that. It's like sometimes it's like you'll kind of walk into a different part of the forest and you'll see it save. But all this to say that I die a lot in Breath of the Wild, and sometimes I go back like 15 minutes. And it really, really frustrates me, and it makes me want to put down the game. And that's why I shouldn't ever play this game, and why I would be able to walk away if I did play, because I hate replaying the same parts of games over and over again. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have been able to be a video gamer in, like, the Mega Man era, the Nintendo Hard era, because, like you, Emma, I do feel like I mostly play games, not mostly, but the majority. That's what mostly means, Madelyn. Come on, get with the program. A large factor of my enjoyment of a game is based on the storytelling components, and of the feeling that I'm making progress and checking things off my to-do list in-game. You can tell me what that means about me psychologically in an email message if you like. I already have some theories. But having to play something over and over and over again and never make progress, on one hand, it is very satisfying when you do make progress. On the other hand, you have to play it over and over again, and that sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in case this wasn't bad enough, it's also getting over it with Bennett Foddy, because Bennett Foddy is your narrator and companion on this trip up the mountain. And a lot of it is just him, like, musing about what inspired him to make this game, including sexy hiking, which is like an old freeware game, I think he says, maybe, but it's very similar to getting over it. But he also will like commiserate with you when you lose your progress by saying, "Aw, man, that's a lot of progress," or something to that effect, you know, in the sort of like very sincere way that comes off as very patronizing every time you end up at the bottom of the mountain again.
Well, did you know, though, that Bennett Foddy actually trained as a philosopher?
Wow.
Like, he went to grad schools, postdoc, and everything. Which brings me back to Diogenes, the name of this character, named after the philosopher Diogenes the Cynic from ancient Greece. And when I said this out loud to Clickbait Boyfriend, and I didn't believe him at first, and folks, this is where the podcast becomes a little bit not safe for work. Clickbait Boyfriend was like, "Oh, Diogenes, yeah, the one that masturbated in the streets of Athens." And I was like, what? But he did.
Great.
He didn't believe in obscenity. Anyway, why is he named after that particular philosopher? Who knows? He was known.
Did he have philosophy about failure?
He was known for being particularly, like, dogged, and, like, that being part of his philosophy, so I think that that's probably why. But interesting little side story there that really shocked me this afternoon.
Yeah. This doesn't really have anything to do with obscenity, although he is shirtless.
Wow.
And does not skip arm day, apparently.
Seriously.
But...
Can you imagine the burn?
Yeah, seriously.
Like, can you imagine how much arm strength this would take?
No.
No, you can't. Unrealistic.
Yeah.
If this game is sounding like, sort of like familiar in its how mundane it is, and also how difficult it is, this guy, Bennett Foddy, most well known for creating, do you pronounce it QWOP, or is it QWOP?
I always say QWOP.
QWOP. He's also known for creating QWOP, the very famous running simulator game, where you have to make the guy run.
Yeah. And so QWOP is his different, it's like two of them are his feet and his knees?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah?
Yeah. So, this guy specializes in making games designed to drive you crazy with very simple mechanics. And he studied moral philosophy, people. So, he's doing this knowing full well what he's doing to you. Also,
yeah.
Emma, I thought you'd want to know this. Bennett Foddy is a professor at the Game Center at NYU.
Oh, wow.
So he teaches European video games of the 1980s.
Oh, wonderful.
Plus some other, like, actual design courses.
My ideal course, European video games of the 1980s.
I thought it was so funny. I was like, I love this. I love that, though. The idea that there's just, like, legit video game history courses that they offer at this grad school.
What is a European video game from the 1980s?
I don't know.
Let us know, listeners.
Bennett.
What's your favorite European video game from the 1980s?
Dr. Foddy. Send us a tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, in conclusion, though, this is a game that I should never play. I was tempted to buy it, because I was like, I should try this. No, I shouldn't. If you see a blog post from me about this, people, don't read it, don't encourage me, don't like it, don't wow it, anger react it. No, don't do that either, because that'll still give me that notification dopamine hit.
Yeah. No engagement.
0. Don't even look at it. So I think that mashing these two games together is going to be a tall order. That was not a joke, but it should have been.
What if you are a vault dweller, but the ladder out of your vault is busted, so you have to climb up out of your vault using only your wits?
No. I don't have any more to say to that. No.
I think that's a great idea.
What is the gameplay?
Moving your mouse.
You've just created, this is the game. This is Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
But it's set in a post-nuclear world, so it has commentary about it.
Getting Over It might as well be set in a post-nuclear world.
This man is living in a cauldron.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's his vault. They do strange experiments on people in the vaults sometimes. So maybe, like, his cauldron is part of whatever experiment in his particular vault.
Maybe. Well, what's your idea then, Madelyn?
Okay. Hear me out, people. Because this game idea is gonna rock your world. Just wait for it. I'm gonna give it to you right now. The greatest game idea I've ever come up with on this
Should I
show.
drum roll?
Yeah.
We're ready for it. Here it comes.
Okay. Here it is. It's Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, but it's a massively multiplayer online role-playing experience.
No. Oh god, that would be terrible.
Thousands of Bennett Foddies just trying to climb the mountain.
So basically it's like thoughts on what is it called? It's better to work together. Like it's more beneficial to work together, but people sometimes don't.
Are you
like
trying
the trust and betray sort of experiment.
What?
Like if you have two people and like you like are supposed to like I don't know, trust each other each time. And you get like benefit for that. But if you don't trust somebody and they trust you, you get more points for that for yourself.
Oh, yeah, I see
But
that.
it hurts
Yeah,
the other person.
It's a philosophical exploration. As always, Emma, first, as we learned last time in our last full episode, we need to ask ourselves, what philosophical philosophy
I was trying to remember, is it game theory? It's not game theory.
No, it's definitely not game theory.
Well, what is that social experiment then? What is that?
I have no idea. Which I'm thinking of the money one. There's like one with money.
It might be the money one that I'm thinking of, like a different variation on that. What is that called?
I don't know.
Thanks, Val.
I do art, okay? Yeah, maybe I can add like a combat mechanic to it of like if you happen to pickaxe someone in the head, you go into like one-on-one combat. Turn-based.
So just like thrown in there?
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't really know how that would work. But maybe you get like a boost. You know, if you can pickaxe someone in the head and then you beat them in like a sudden death round of turn-based combat, then you get like boosted up into the air.
Interesting.
I can't believe I'm trying to create an online multiplayer game. This is not my, like, I would not play this game, but I would follow it as they descended into a hell of microtransactions and such.
So, kind of what I'm hearing. Okay, so there's this game from Atlas called Catherine. And the main gameplay of this is you're like climbing a big wall, like a sort of puzzle, like a 3D sort of platformer. You have to move things around. But there's a bunch of other like NPCs also trying to climb this. And sometimes they like get in your way, or sometimes you get in their way. So in yours, it would be kind of like that, except those are real people, and when you hit them, you actually fight them for dominance to get them out of your way.
Yes.
Okay.
And, like, you could work together. We'd be interested in seeing how tribes evolve.
Tribes evolve.
Yeah. Look,
Okay,
here's the thing, though. There would still be, like, no saving stuff.
so Madelyn wants to breed all-out war on the internet.
Right, but here's the thing. There'd be no savings. You'd have to rely on somebody to, like, hold you in place. Or, like, drag you along with them. Otherwise, you could come back, you could be all the way at the bottom again.
Wow.
Yeah. This would be a good way to keep people from ever stopping playing. Gaming addiction? What's that?
What's that? Keep them playing for 72 hours straight. Maybe you'd have it like a limited time event. Like it's like a week-long game experience.
Like at a time?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, we do like resort trips where you play for a week at a time.
Yeah.
What a horrible...
Talk about social experiments.
Seriously. Well, Bennett Foddy did in his pre-game designer life, or kind of concurrent game designer life, study like drug addiction, the moral philosophy of drug addiction. So I think he would approve of me creating a game to instill gaming addiction in people.
Okay.
Like, I think he'd be like, yeah, that's in the spirit of my game.
Please don't make this game. That's our crossover. Nobody call us about it or offer to make it, because I think you would be inviting real fallout to come upon the world.
But here's the thing. In day 4 of this 7-day event, you'd start to offer a microtransaction that allows you to save your place.
Oh my god.
For a cool $1,000.
Madelyn just wants to watch the world burn to the ground so that she can explore the post-nuclear version of New York that she's always wanted to.
Get your vaults ready, folks. And while you're in that vault, you should check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All of those except YouTube, Talk This Podcast, on YouTube as Talk This Sisters. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you'll see memes from us. I have a great Kingdom Hearts meme that I made that's going live, or maybe has already gone live this weekend. I've become a meme expert. I'm addicted to making them.
A meme addiction.
Meme
addiction. Next thing to be added.
Where's that one?
Yeah, I know. Where's my diagnosis?
Seriously. Where's my internet dog addiction?
I'm sure that's a real one.
Probably.
And you definitely have it.
Just love my Japanese Shibas.
And Clickbait Boyfriend is enabling you. I'm just speaking as a concerned friend and sister.
Anyway, you should follow us on social media for memes, for our latest content, for links, for all sorts of fun stuff. Links both Nintendo and web related. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, where we're Talk This Sisters, where you can see the latest Play This Emma series on gameplay as storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That updated this week, so you should really check that out. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. Let's see, you should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can check out our blog. The latest edition of Clickbait Boyfriend either went up yesterday or is going up on Tuesday. It's done now. Well, it will be done when this episode goes up. But it's possible it might get it. I want to make sure I post it at a time you'll catch it. and it doesn't get buried by our other blog content.
Yes.
So it was either yesterday, in which case you've already seen the meme, or it's Tuesday, in which case you will see the meme.
Yes.
So isn't that a kind of a fun little time warp thing we're playing with here today?
Yeah. Tomorrow you'll also see the latest in our split screen off-topic corner, where we're watching My Hero Academia and Boys Over Flowers.
It was a crazy week.
Look up for that, yeah.
Let's see. What else? It was Emma's birthday, so really this is the week to subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and to tell your friends. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Play / Google Podcasts, we're on TuneIn, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're basically anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. And if there's a place that you listen to podcasts and you haven't found us, again, drop us a line at talktous@talkthispodcast.com.
Yeah.
If there's a place you want to see the show, we'll do our best to get it there. Which brings us to picking games for our next full episode.
Oh, right. And Emma is going to get those loaded on that website.
www.talkthispodcast.com.
Random picker. Because I don't need Madelyn. Madelyn's signing off now.
Yeah, I've
Goodbye,
basically
Madelyn.
been written off the show.
But as usual, we're going to do our old game first. I have not actually been replacing them recently. I think I'm going to whittle it down to like 12 maybe in each hat and then start replacing them so we get a little bit more turnover going on.
Okay, don't present that to the listeners as your idea.
I was saying that to you in order to let you know that I had taken your advice.
I suggested this, and you were like, that's dumb.
Okay, whatever.
And now here we are.
Our result is Nancy Drew.
Yes! Yes! I didn't even know that was in the hat. Oh, I'm so excited.
And then
I'm like,
for
Fallout, what's that? Nancy Drew, yes!
Yeah. And we can talk about that whole series.
Yes!
As opposed to one.
So excited.
So for our new game, we have Sea of Thieves.
What's that?
I think that'll make a good mashup.
I was about to say, Nancy Drew and Sea of Thieves? This is going to be the best Nancy Drew game ever. Get hype, people. But first, get excited for next week. We'll have our usual side quest episode, where we're in our kind of news magazine format, where we talk about what we're playing this week, which, does Champ McDude have any adventures? He's had a few.
See.
We will see. And our weather report, our traffic report, our off-topic corner, and our question of the fortnight, so you really don't want to miss it.
So, Madelyn, do you want to give us our sign-off?
Have a week that feels like you too just turned 20 fun.